මම කියනවා ඇත්තටම මේක ඔයාලා සමහර විට මේ ලෝකේ ඉන්නකොට ඔයාලා දැකලා ඇති මේ වර්ල්ඩ් වෝස් යූත්. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි යූත් එක විදිහට ඔයාලා සමහර විට කියන්නේ ඔයාලා පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳන් මම එදා කිව්වා වගේ ඔයාලා පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳන් මේ සමාජයේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න දකින්න ඇති. සහ මේ සමාජයේ මොන වගේ දේවල්ද වෙන්නේ කියලා ඔයාලට අදහසක් ඇති. සහ මේ ලෝකෙ වෙන්නේ මොන වගේ දේවල්ද කියන එක ගැන ඔයාලගේ අදහසක් ඇති. ඒත් ඔයාලට සමහර වෙලාවකට දැනෙලා තියෙනවාද ඒ කියන්නේ අපි යූත් එකක්. ඒ කියන්නේ යූත් ලීඩර්ස්ලා විදිහට අපිට මොනවද මේ සමාජය වෙනුවෙන් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. සහ අපේ රෙස්පොන්සිබිලිටිස් මොනවද? සහ අපිට මොන වගේ දෙයක්ද මේ යූත් ලීඩර්ස්ලා අතින් වෙන්න ඕනි. සහ අපි ඒ වගේ දෙයක් දකිද්දි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මම එදා කිව්වා වගේ ඔයාලට ඒ වගේ දේවල් දකිද්දි ඔයාලට කතා කරන්න අවස්ථාවක් නැති වෙන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ සමහරවිට ඔයාලා මේ සමාජයේ වැරදි දෙයක් දකිනවා නම් සහ සමාජයේ මොකක් හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒ දේවල් දැකලා ඔයාලට සමහරවිට කතා කරන්න බැරි වෙන්නේ. නමුත් අද අපි පොඩ්ඩක් දැනගමු සහ අපි බලමු ලීඩර්ස්ලා විදිහට අපි සමාජය වෙනුවෙන් ලෝකෙ වෙනුවෙන් අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් දේවල් මොනවද සහ අපේ යූත් ලීඩර් කෙනෙක් විදිහට අපි කොහොමද ඩෙවලොප් වෙන්නේ. නික අපි අපේ ප්‍රොෆෙෂන් එකට අපි කැරියර් එකට අපි ඉස්සරහ අපේ පාත් එකට කොච්චර වැදගත් වෙනවද සහ ලීඩර්ෂිප් කියන එක ගැන ඒක හැමතැනම අපි කතා කරනවා. නමුත් අපි අහලා බලමු සහ අපි ඔයාලට මම හිතනවා මම කියන හරියටම අයිඩියල් පර්සන් කෙනෙක් ගෙනාවා කියලා. සහ මම හිතනවා ඔයාලා මේ සෙෂන් එක ඔයාලගේ ජීවිතේ වෙනස් කරගන්න අවස්ථාවක් කරගයි කියලා. ඒත් එක්ක මම ඉන්වයිට් කරන්න කැමති Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation and be with us for strengthening our Leos. So thank you so much sir. The floor is yours. මුලින්ම කියනවා නැත්නම් කවුද අසිත පින්නදුව කියන මම හිතන්නේ දන්නවා ඇති ගොඩක් අය මිස්ටර් අසිත පින්නදුව කියන්නේ කවුද කියලා මම අමුතුවෙන් ඉන්ට්‍රොඩියුස් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒත් මම ආයෙත් මතක් කරනවා assistant vice president private banking sector National Trust Bank, and also he was the Leo district president 306B2 in terms 2007 and 2008. Sir, floor is yours. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and be with us.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
All right. So thank you very much to your club of University of Kelaniya. And firstly, let me thank Leo Kasum Balasuriya for inviting me for your Leo leadership 3-day Leo leadership camp. And firstly, I hope that you and your families are doing well and safe during this difficult period. So before I actually start my session, I would like to mention, if you have not met each other. So by profession, I'm a banker. So generally we deal with disclaimers. So as usual, I'll start off with a couple of disclaimers. So whatever the information that I share during this session is purely my personal view, and it will not represent my present employer, my present organization, or any of the organization that I work for, or any of the association that I'm attached to as well. So these are purely my personal view. And also, as a policy, generally I do not like to recycle information from the Google. So as a result, you might not hear some of the global examples that you hear usually, but in fact, you might hear certain personal experiences of mine, which I've been through, for the benefit of the audience. So again, I would like to reiterate, the whole purpose is to share knowledge, not to praise, or rather not to become a monkey who's praising his own tail, right? So third one is, so most of the insights that I share may be controversial, because generally I don't go by the textbook or what the textbook says. So I have my own philosophy. So be open-minded, and empty your cup for the next 45 minutes to learn something new and productive, right? Are we good? Right, I know it's very difficult. I mean, as a speaker, when you have a virtual audience and they are all of them on mute, I know it's very difficult, but let's manage it. So let me start off with why the global, why this youth is important, right? So if you look at, just bring some numbers to the table. So from the global population, almost 1.2 billion, as per the UNDP, roughly about 1.2 billion. That means about 16% of the global population belongs to youth. So out of that, 50% global youth population is occupied by the South Asia. That means, including including our own country, Sri Lanka, and the Sub-Saharan. So in terms of quantity, you understand the scale of, or rather power of, youth. So my next question is, so it's undoubted that, as being the largest, one of the largest age brackets, it's important that we should, discuss about this segment. So, but I'm not here to discuss about the youth, or rather youth population, but to discuss certain items in respect of leadership. So I would like to, ask the first question. I know that, if you need, you can use your chat box. If the organizers are, permitting you, please unmute and, give your response. Why we need youth leaders? So that's my, first question. Why we need youth leaders? I mean, the whole purpose of this session, this 3-day program, is about discuss about leadership. So why we need youth leaders specifically for this country? Anyway, for the interest of time, I understand you may be having certain difficulties of responding or rather directly connecting with me. So I'll give you some of the stats. If you have been to some of my previous sessions, you might, finding a bit boring, but please, bear with me because the stats hasn't changed, right? So as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, 770,000 of Sri Lankans, right, like people like you and me, make less than $1 per day, right? And also about 4.2 million population, that means roughly about almost 20 to 25% of the population makes less than $2 per day. Again, දවසට රුපියල් 500කට අඩුවෙන් තමයි ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ දවසක ඒක පුද්ගල ආදායම. And if you look at the global context, there are about 1.3 billion population who makes less than $1 a day. දවසේ ආදායම රුපියල් 225ට අඩු මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා 1.3 billion. And also Sri Lanka is one of the countries which is heavily relying on foreign exchange, foreign remittances, right? So apparel is our, our largest foreign exchange earner. But apart from that, we heavily relying on housemates. So who are these housemates? How many housemates again? It's these are not aliens. These are our own mothers or sisters, right? So I think as a country, as a nation, we should be, I don't know, to me, we should feel embarrassed where we have gone to the level where we sell our own mothers and sisters, especially to Saudi Arabian nations. To me, it's like slavery. I may be wrong, but based on what I get to hear from through media, it's more or less a slavery, right? And if you look at the health, right? By 2040, it's not too far, right? Another 25 years ahead. 25% of our population will be will be more than 60 years age. That means our country will be heavily dependent people like you, right? Meaning 25% of our population will not be able to make any economic contribution. රටේ ආදායමට කිසිම දායකත්වයක් සපයන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ට අමාරු වෙනවා. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වයස අවුරුදු 60ට වැඩි වෙන හින්දා. Right? And as we speak, while having a 90% or maybe 90% plus literacy rate, one of the highest in the world, we have 1.2 million එනතන් සිංගලෙන් කියනවා නම් ලක්ෂ 12ක්. We have 1.2 million people who drive 3 wheels. for their day, instead of doing economic activity, instead of getting into agriculture, instead of studying. 1.2 million people drive three wheels. Again, I don't discriminate. Again, that's also another job. But I'm pretty sure this 1.2 million can be used productively, or rather more effectively than driving a three wheel, right? And for a fact, most of these people who engage in these activities are engaging socially unacceptable activities as well, right? Maybe transportation of drugs, drug trafficking, or maybe certain underworld activities as well. And where is our GDP? අපේ ජලදේශීය නිෂ්පාදනය දැන් කොයි හරි තියෙන්නේ? Where are we now? We used to have about a decent run rate, about 7%. Now, I think because of the COVID, it went down to minus 3.5. Now we are on a slight upward mode. And while we speak, while having one of the one of the few free education systems, we have more than 53,000 undergraduates who are trying to find a job. So apparently, that has created one of the largest organizations, which we call the Unemployed Undergraduates Association. 53,000 members. So if you ask the question of whether these people are not intelligent enough, no, which is not. They are much more better than us in terms of academic qualification, right? But 53,000 young brothers and sisters of ours trying to, struggling to find a job. Whereas if you look at the central bank stats, unemployment has been going up. I mean, we used to have a unemployment under 4%, but it is gradual. And while we speak about 200 deaths per day due to corona, I think we have lost more Sri Lankan citizens than COVID, right? That because of non-communicable diseases, if we call the NCDs, posted දියවැඩියාව හෘද ආශ්‍රිත රෝග අදාළ ඒ වගේ දේවල්, right? And also others, mental disorders, psychological problems, disability, relationships, and because of the economy, poverty, another set of people actually committed to suicide. And the last point that I would like to make is, since we are having this chat with the university, of course, Leo Club University. If you look at the Global Innovation Index, where the 130 out of 131 countries, Sri Lanka has been ranked as 101st is our ranking, whereas some of the poorest nation in our region, which is Nepal, ranked at 95, right? So in essence, what I'm trying to tell you guys is, whether we like it or not, you might understand that something is not right. Are you agree with me or not? Yes, we can argue. You don't have to agree to everything what I say. Of course, I mean, I love, this could have been an open forum where we could, debate. But unfortunately, with the new normal, we had to live with it. So something's not right. Whereas in some our own nations, some of our own regional countries, such as Bangladesh, which used to be way behind of us. If you may not aware, unless you are a finance student, you might know, to fulfill the Sri Lanka's foreign reserves, we actually borrow money from the Bangladesh now, right? So that's the status of the country. So young leaders, my message to you is, Sri Lanka needs you than never before. I repeat, Sri Lanka needs young leaders. So I will not spend time to discuss about what is leadership. මම මගේ කාලය ගත කරන මම අදහස් කරන්නේ මොකද නායකත්වය කියන්නේ කියලා. මම දන්නවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ හොඳටම නායකත්වයේ definitions theory ඔයගොල්ලෝ උන්තරන් මේ වගේ වැඩමුළුවට අහන්න හම්බෙලා ඇති. So මම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට එතනින් එහාට ගිහිල්ලා කාරණා කීපයක් මම ඔයගොල්ලොත් එක්ක බෙදා හදා ගන්න කැමතියි. Right? So since the previous moderator, I'm sorry I don't see your name, but I see only the project name. As he correctly said, understanding the responsibility of the youth leaders, right? So that's one of the core items that I would like to spend some time to understand, right? So again, I reiterate, I will not go by the textbooks, right? If you need someone to spill the textbook, I don't think my presence is required. So that's why I think I was invited to bring a different perspective to the table, right? So in order to become a responsible youth leader, right, in my view, the number one, the quality, the number one aspect what you should be having is your values. So what are these values? So let me explain. So generally, I'm very vocal about two C's, right? So two C's. So the first C represent competence, and the second C represent character. Character, right? Values, so there's a nice formula. Again, this is something which I use very frequently. Again, you might find it a bit boring to listen to the same old formula, but to me this formula is timeless, right? So this formula goes like this: a person with competency, right, with competence without character is an animal, and a person with character without competency good for nothing. If you couldn't capture it, let me repeat it. Competence කියන්නේ දක්ෂතාවයන් තියෙන හැබැයි character එහෙම නැත්නම් values නැති පුද්ගලෙක් සමාන වෙනවා සතෙකුට, right? ඒත් එක්කම ගතිගුණ විතරක් තියෙන දක්ෂතාවය නැති පුද්ගලයෝ අපි කියනවා පතෝල වගේ කියලා. රසත් නැහැ, ගුණත් නැහැ, අගුණත් නැහැ, right? So good for nothing. So in order to become an effective leader, effective youth leader, you must have to have your value system. I will explain it further, right? So these values plays a critical role, right? So before I get to that, these values comes in different forms, right? Most of us, we're trying to change the world, or rather the value system of rather change the value system of the country or rather the world before changing ourselves, right? So I want to උදාහරණ කීපයක් දෙන්න. ජනරජයේ කියනවා හරි දැන් මේක අපේ ලොක්ඩවුන් එකක්. අපි මොනවද කරන්නේ? ලොක්ඩවුන් එක කිව්ව ගමන් වෙන්ද පාරට යන්නෙත් නැති අපි හරි ලෝකෝ වීරකමක් කරා වගේ we go to the town, or at least we go to the next house, right? And we have some of our citizens have gone to the extent of stealing the vaccine. Second, may hospital panel හොරකම් කරන්නේ නැහැ. But we have gone to the extent of you get the vaccination today from Western province and you go to another province to get the second dose. You can fast track කරලා වැඩේ කරගන්න. You would have come across, if you have listened to the national TV or radio, you would have heard many stories of this nature, right? And also, you would have come across, while trying to change the world, while doing their higher studies, people who are outsourcing their own assignments. I took this example purposely because I understand this audience is a set of academics or rather undergraduates, most of them, I believe, right? So while we're trying to change the world, while we find fault of others, we have some of our own colleagues trying to outsource their assignments or projects for money. And campus ඉස්සරහම ගහලා තියන්න පුළුවන් කහිරක් කහිරෙන් පාර පායින් නැතුව කහිර දැක දැක ඒකට මෙහා පැත්තෙන් අපි පාර පායිනවා. So how many of us really obey the road rules? Just think, when was the last time that you cross the road by using the, now it's a white crossing, sorry, it's we are so conditioned to yellow crossing, right? Now it's a white crossing. How many of us actually use the white crossing? ඒක දැක දැක අපි කී දෙනෙක් පාර පයින්නවද ඒකට මෙහා පැත්තෙන්, right? And just be honest to yourself, but anyway I don't expect you to answer this question. Just ask from your parents, or rather ask this question from yourself: how many of you bribe to get into a national school, right? Or to get your driving license, or to get your riding license, or to get away from a violation of road rules? Again, පාරදී පොලිසිය පාර වැරද්දක් කළා පොලිසියට වුණාම කීයක් හරි පොලිසිය අංකල්ගේ හරි අයියාගේ අතර දීලා මාරුවෙන් අපි කී දෙනෙක් හැදුවා, right? Anyway, so I don't expect you to answer, right? But just think about it. So most of us, we want to change the world. When I same as you, though I'm old, rather relatively old, I work like a Gen Z, like most of you all, active on social media, but for right purpose. Sometimes that makes me laugh. Some of the comments made on social media actually make me laugh, because by knowing that internally, I mean, who they are and what they project is completely different, right? So think about it. පොඩ්ඩක් කල්පනා කරලා බලන්න මම මේ කිව්ව කාරණා පහ ගැන, right? Because I'm telling you, so everyone, we do all our studies, join the Leo Club for a reason. Why? Yes, for us to become better leaders, and thereby to become successful in our lives, right? That's the bottom line, right? So in research form, if not the mathematical form, the values what we have and the success has a perfect positive correlation, right? සමාන මට ඒක සිංහලෙන් කියන්න තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. It has a positive perfect correlation. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒකට values කියන එකයි අපේ සාර්ථකත්වය කියන දෙයයි රේල් පීල්ල වගේ දෙක එකට ගමන් කරන දෙයක්. ඒ කියන්නේ values වැඩි වෙන තරමට අපේ සාර්ථකත්වයත් ඒ හා සමානව වැඩි වෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒක negative relationship එක නෙමෙයි. ඒ කියන්නේ එකක් වැඩි වෙද්දී අනිත් variable එක අඩු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? So I will drill it further. So I'm not trying to drag any religion, right? So as per the birth certificate, I'm a Buddhist, but I leave all those religious tags away, especially during my public sessions. So therefore, I'm not dragging in religions. End of the day, our thoughts, right? Our actions, or what we do, whether it's positive or negative, become our outcomes. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි හොඳ දේ හිතලා හොඳ දේ කරොත් අපිට ලැබෙන්නේ හොඳ දෙයක්. And if we think about bad, අපි නරක දෙයක් හිතලා නරක ක්‍රියාවක් නැත්නම් නරක action එකක් කරොත් අපිට හම්බෙන්නේ නරක ප්‍රතික්‍රියාවක්. That's very simple, right? That's very simple. That goes hand in hand with Newton's theory as well. Then some of you might say, Asitha, ඉතින් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කියන්න පුළුවන් අපිට කරන්න තමයි අමාරු, right? So I'll give you a couple of examples. I told you I'll share a couple of my personal experience as well, so that I could relate it much better, because I can't really verify what is on the internet, right? So in 2007, I don't know how many of you actually read about myself. So in rather, yeah, since it was not fully introduced during the session. So in 2007, under my leadership, so I will take this Leo example since it's a Leo club event. So under my leadership, when I was as a club president, our club became the world best Leo club. World best Leo club, right? Uh, in the history of 50 to 60 50 to 60 years of Leoism in the country, only two clubs have achieved this title. So one being my home club, Leo Club of Columbus, right? But that doesn't mean that I had the silver spoon in my mouth. අර රෙදි හන්ද අරගෙන ආපු කට්ටිය නෙමෙයි. So like same as you, I had a very humble beginning, not from Colombo, from deep down south, had many challenges. In fact, to share a very personal one, when I was doing my A-levels, I had only two set of uniforms. I think it's very difficult period, but that's how the journey began. So things are difficult. And so when we won this award, so I was asked to come to come to attend the international convention. At that time, it was in Thailand, Bangkok. So Lions International committed to pay only at that time about $250 at that time. But still, it's not good enough to cover my expenses, because I had to spend at least 3 or 4 days there, because otherwise no point just going there and collecting the award and coming back. So I was short of about 40,000 rupees at that time. So I couldn't ask any money from my parents, because they never they didn't have that amount of money. And of course, we being a social club, we can't ask from the general public for me to give me the money to go to collect my award. That doesn't sound right. So I was scratching my head. So how to find this money to collect this award, because that's a global recognition, once in a life opportunity that any young person is dreaming of getting it. Then all of a sudden I got a telephone call from one of the advertising agencies, and I said, "Is this Asitha?" Yes, I said, "This is Asitha. Asitha, we have selected you for a TV commercial." I said, "Okay, fine." Because at that time, I was apart from my corporate career, as a hobby, I was into those type of uh, activities as well. So they said, then I said, "Fine, let's do it," because anyway, this is not a strange thing for me. So I said, "Okay, that's fine." But I had one curious question, because this particular advertising agency is not an agency that I ever worked for. Then I asked, "Do you mind telling me how do you get my details?" Then this person, this coordinator said, "Asitha, actually, I don't know how I got this, but when I was searching for a model for this particular commercial, I couldn't find anyone. Then suddenly from my rack, because at that time I'm talking about 2007, about almost 14 15 years back. So at that time this Facebook maybe probably would have been there, but maybe not the prime mode of communication at that time. So at that time it was all hard printed copies. So while I was checking my album, suddenly your photo dropped to my table. So when I flipped that photo and see, that was the ideal character, the profile that I was looking for. So how do you define this? I know it's really, really difficult to explain whether it's luck or coincidence. So I leave it with you to decide, right? And until now, sorry, the best part is I said, "Okay, that's fine. Anyway, you got my image, and we are good to go. How much are you willing to pay?" So this person said, "Asitha, we can pay you 40,000." So at that time, 40,000 was big money. So he said 40,000. So I was quite surprised. So what was the surprising factor was, so that was the exact amount of money that I was in need to, that I was needed to go to Bangkok to collect the award. So nothing much, nothing less, exactly 40,000 rupees. So how do you define this? A luck or coincidence Oh, ping, karma, you Allah leave it with you. Oh, God's grace, whatever you label it, right? So that's one. And so in terms of Leo career, right? So in terms of my professional career, so anyway, long story cut short for the interest of time. So I was working for an international bank, a UK-based international bank. So I had a friend of mine, working as a good team. And so the management had a long story cut short, because I'll be telling the story for the entire period. So the management had a situation where, in terms of promotion at that time, it was a bit of a difficult period for the organization. So they had to decide, out of these two seats, only one person can be promoted, right? So when I looked at in terms of size of the portfolios, so I felt that not myself, actually my friend should get that. Not really friend, actually I call them colleagues, right? It was colleague. So I felt that based on the size of the portfolio, ඒගොල්ලෝ කරන business එකේ size එකේ තරම, so I felt that he should get it. So when I was thinking about this, so during one of our meeting, so my boss stood up and said, "Hey, look, I think," but at that time I was performing very well. So he said, "Hey, look, we can't promote both of you all, but in fact we can promote only one. So we had decided to promote yourself. I mean me." So I said, so again, it was a, I mean, of course, everyone work for a promotion in any organization, right? And that's what everyone is, working for. Job satisfaction plus, getting a career advancement. But something to me, I didn't like it, because I knew, based on my inner conscious, that was not the right thing. I mean, management would have, saw something different. So I said, straight away, I said, "You look, boss, I really appreciate your effort, and for recognizing my particular job role to be upgraded. But in my view, it's not me." So I presented my facts, based on numbers, profitability, portfolio size. I think it's not my seat. This other seat is the seat. The job role should get upgraded. So in just apply to this in present context. How many of us will have the courage to say, by knowing that you're losing, I mean, the corporate, I mean, you will not get promotions or other job upgrades on daily basis, right? Sometimes it will take months, sometimes it will take years, sometimes it will take decades, based on the where you are. Lower the ladder, higher the opportunities, relatively when you go up in the ladder, you have to stuck in a one place for a long period of time. I mean, at least couple of years. So it's like a suicide mission, right? So how many of us will take that path and say, and put our hand up and say, "Hey, look, I don't need this. Give this to this person, because in terms of numbers, that is the person who should get this." How many of us will do it? So then again, management decided, yes, it was correct. So it was given to that particular person. So I didn't get it. But after the 1 year's time, I got a opportunity to join another organization. So again, that career break was almost two times what I was supposed to get, right? ඒ කියන්නේ අපි මැනේජර් ඉඳලා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මැනේජර් සීනියර් මැනේජර් එහෙම නැහැ. මේක එකපාරට සීනියර් මැනේජර් වෙන්න නැතුව I was offered a higher grade. So again, the question is whether it's luck or whether it's coincidence, right? Or it's karma, or whatever you call it, right? So I have I have another one experience, a very recent one. So I have been doing, not sure any of you have seen this project. It's called the Money Matters, where we discuss about financial income. So at that time, so I was as a club, we were in the need of collecting sponsorship. So for a fact, during this period, collecting sponsorship is very difficult. But for random reason, I just picked an email, send a I didn't know that person or the company. I knew the company, but not the person that I'm dealing with. I just presented the project proposal. I sent the email at about 10:38 in the morning. So I got a response saying that at 12:08 PM same day, made within a span of 1.5 hours. So Asitha, thank you for the proposal that has been accepted. And this is a sponsorship. Please let us know what needs to be done. All right. Again, without even firing a telephone call. I'm no celebrity, right? I'm not a corporate CEO yet, right? But these are some of the facts, right? So again, I leave it to you to decide whether it's luck, karma, or God grace, or whatever you call it, right? So to me, it's called the law of nature, right? So law of nature is something uh, that we are all part of, and that's the core essence of all the religions that has been established, right? So we are like subfolders of this big master file of this universe, of this nature. So what has happened is, so if you consider this nature, or which is called the power of existence, as a ocean, most of us have become coconut oil. So if you are doing science, you would know the coconut oil won't dissolve in H2O, right? Right? So that's what has happened to most of us. So this nature is capable of giving anything and everything what we need. Even if we ask good, the nature will give you all the good things. Even if we ask bad things, even nature will give you all the bad things as well. So what we have to do is, instead of becoming a drop of coconut oil, if we become a drop of the ocean, we have the access to all these abundance of resources without any effort. But again, I reiterate, that doesn't mean that just because you do a good thing, that following day you will get the result, right? That's not how it's going to work. It's a different formula. It works with a different formula. But if you do good things, if you preserve your values, the good thing or the right thing will happen at the right time. තවත් පැහැදිලි කරලා කියනවා නම් අපේ values අපි හරියට පාවිච්චි කරොත් ඒක අපට අවශ්‍යම වෙලාවෙදී අපිට අවශ්‍ය ප්‍රතිඵලය අපට ලබා දෙනවා. මම උදාහරණයක් කිව්වා වගේ ඒක අද අපි කාටවත් කාට හරි බඩගින්න මිනිස්සුන්ට බත් පැකට් එකක් දුන්නා කියලා හෙට ඇවිල්ලා හෙට අනිද්දා උදේ ඇවිල්ලා ශැංග්‍රිලා එකෙන් ෆ්‍රයිඩ් රයිස් ලෝරියක් ගෙදර පාක් කරන්නේ නැහැ. That's not going to happen, right? Even in the worst case, even if you happen to go to some remote area and if you get lost, at least you will get the right amount of food at the right time for you to survive, right? So I hope you got my point. So in simple essence, guys, maintaining these values, or rather doing the right thing, it's very difficult in this present context, because every time what you hear is all the negativity and the corruption, the bribery. That's all what you hear, right? Even if you look at the kids, how we start their life is by bribing the school, getting them to a Colombo 7 or Colombo district school, right? But my message is, if you do the right thing, if you preserve your values, the results are inevitable. Our values, අපි හරියට අපි ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් පවත්වාගෙන ගියොත් ඒකෙන් හම්බෙන ප්‍රතිඵල, it's inevitable කියන්නේ ඒක නවත්තන්න බෑ. ඒක අද්දුටුවයි ප්‍රත්‍යක්ෂයි. So I can give you thousands of examples, but this is not the forum to do that. But we can have a separate chat on that, right? So that's my number one thing, right? I'm sure you must be stretching your head. So we are here to, generally you can hear something completely different, or other standard in textbooks version, but this is something completely different, right? So your value should be your number one criteria, nothing else, right? And so the next question what we should be asking is, so as a youth leaders, what are the things that we can do, right? So I'd like to bring into two different platforms. So if you look at global issues, organizers, I believe I got about another 8 minutes. Is that okay? My timing is correct?
It's all right, sir. Take your time. Sure.
Okay. I will stick to the time. Don't worry. So if you look at as a youth leaders, what we can do, right? So I'll like to slice it to two. One is the global issues, other one is the local issues, right? So if you take the global issues, I'm sure you can teach me, starting from the climate change, meaning the global warming, inequality, then clean water, freedom of speech, right? අදහස් ප්‍රකාශ කිරීමේ අයිතිය. So those are some of the global issues that we have, pressing issues that we have. So if we take in local context, I mean, there's no particular order. These are some randomly I will mention this. So deforestation, cancer, Pilika, right? And NCDs, if not the non-communicable diseases, and corruption, poverty, and innovation. Especially I picked the innovation because that's the not the only responsibility of the youth, but you will have a much better and bigger chance to innovate than most of us, right? Because purely considering the age factor and the technological advancement which is expected during next couple of decades, right? So I'll leave it with you to decide what is the root cause, what you're going to pick and fight for, right? But my message to you is, once you picked that cause, you have to stand for what you believe. Remember, there are no overnight success or short-term success. If you are to be a successful youth leader, you got to constantly believe in it and work towards it. එක Facebook post එකක් දැම්මයි කියලා ලෝකෙ හදන්න බෑ. තමන්ව හදන්නත් බෑ. right? ඒක සාර්ථකත්වය කියන්නේ එහෙම නැත්නම් අපිට වෙනස් කරන්න ඕන දේ එක දවසෙන් වෙනස් කරන්නත් බෑ. එක රැයකින් වෙනස් කරන්නත් බෑ. අවුරුද්දෙන් වෙනස් කරන්නත් බෑ. ඒකට සෑහෙන දීර්ඝ කාලයක් ගත වෙනවා. But what matters is just hang on to it. So if I take my case, I've been into community service and I wear multiple hats. I represented anyway, just for the record, so I represented Sri Lanka, or rather competed in Sri Lanka in 6 different disciplines. But nothing, came on a plateau. Asitha make ganna or make kala denna. So nothing didn't come in that way. So I fought for it and I worked towards it, day in, day out, even as I speak. Even on Saturday, Sundays, my schedule starts at 5 o'clock before my 2 kids, wake up. Half of my day's activities are done, right? So still, I'm working towards it. So same applies to you as well. So if you think you can be an effective youth leader by doing, by taking shortcuts, just forget about it. Just forget about it. That's not going to happen, right? Even the year that we became the world best Leo club, again, it's not my contribution. I had all the respect for my beloved club members. We were not a university club as you all, where we never had the luxury of lots of free resources. The faculty, the auditoriums, everything came at a price. So during that year, we did 177 projects, right? So that means one project for every other day. Das 365 අපි කරා project 177. So still it's a record, right? So that's the level of the focus that we had, right? So for you to become an effective youth leader, again, I repeat, stand for what you believe, and there's no overnight or short-term success. It's a long-term journey. So that's why only 2% of the people will be success, because 98% or be 95% of them, they just drop their dreams halfway through. It's very, very difficult. So be absolutely focused. So my next point to you is stop being a keyboard warrior, get into real action, because I perfectly understand that I have a huge respect for the social media that has completely changed the landscape of the communication, the connectivity, and how we do things. That has completely changed the entire world. So there's no way out. You can't survive without social media. That plays a key role. But merely being a keyboard warrior, uh, writing theses on social media, or writing thesis as comments. I have some of my friends who do not engage, who do not do their higher studies. So when I ask, Mata, why don't you do your BSc? Why don't you finish your MBA? Nෑ මචං අපිට වෙලා නැහැ. So when I just at a glance, when I go and check his social media feed, I see like 2,500 words worth of comments. So I'm sure if I collect those 10 comments and put it to a research paper and put some and put a reference and bibliography, he could have easily finished his uh, MBA submission, right? So it's fine. Again, I reiterate, social media is a great platform, but use it wisely. uh, what we need is get into real action, right? Yes, use it, leverage it, but don't be a slave of social media. Just because you shout loud and put positive or negative comments on social media, you will not be successful. Maybe for a short while, yes, you may be maybe seen as a person who's doing it, but then again, the people will realize the true character, true caliber of who you are, right? So the latest example is so even Yohani, yes, she had the support of she was her music was supported by because of the tweet of Amitabh Bachchan, but that was not the only success, because when people were criticizing her, still she was quietly working on her mission, right? So it was not again merely a luck, right? So because she was into real action, not only trying to defend her style or views by fighting with the people who have been commenting against her, right? So stop being a keyboard warrior, getting into real action. So those are the 2 points that I would like to mention. And as a last final point, again, one of the frequent terms that I use. So as leaders, we need to understand the purpose of living. Why are we doing this? All these achievements, clothes, medals, being the best Leo of the year, Leo of the multiple, etc., etc. That is fine. But in this day, all what we need to understand the purpose of living. To me, the life is a game of tennis. I repeat, to me, life is a game of tennis where it starts serving others and love war, right? So to me, if someone asks, "What's your life philosophy?" To me, that's it. That's my life philosophy. Making someone better than what they find today. And as one final note, since it's a youth leadership program, yes, we can discuss all the values, competencies, but end of the day, it comes down to two types of people. So one types of people, there are type A, there are three types of people. A person who can make things happen, people who, point number two, type number two, people who observe what happened. Third category, people who wonder what happened. Category එකේ ඉන්නේ දේවල් කරන මිනිස්සු. කැටගරි දෙකේ ඉන්නේ අනිත් අය කරන්නේ මොනවද කියලා බලන මිනිස්සු. කැටගරි 3 ඉන්නේ කැටගරි 3 එකේ ඉන්නේ උනාට පස්සේ ඒක කොහොමද උනේ මොනවද උනේ කියලා බලන කට්ටිය. Right? So it's up to us to decide which category that we want to belong to. Again, there are no hard and fast rule. But if you are to become a successful leader, a successful youth leader, you must get into group 1, meaning the people, a leader who can, or a person who can make things happen, not to observe or not to wonder what happened. So with that, I would like to conclude my session. So again, I would like to thank the organizing committee of Leo Club of University of Kelaniya. I know it's not an easy task to organize an event like this, though be it a physical event or a virtual event that require lots of organizing capability and resources. So in my view, I think you have done a fantastic job, and I wish you all the very best, and I will wish good luck and good health for you and your families as well. So and if you need any support, I'm available on all the social media except for TikTok, because still I can't dance. Just kidding. So you can reach out to me in your social media. So I'm happy to connect, and I'm willing to support the best possible way to uplift you as individuals as well as leaders. So with that, thank you very much, and wishing you all the very best. And stay safe and good night.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Mr. Asitha Pinnaduwa, for that insightful session. And I hope almost all the delegates got a lot of input from you. And yeah, thank you for being part of our leadership program. And so, we are forever grateful to have you. And ළමයි ඔයාලට මොන හරි වුණ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඕනම දෙයක කනෙක්ට් වෙන්න පුළුවන් social media platforms ආයේ දේවල් එක්ක. ඉතින් ඒ දේත් එක්ක හැම වෙලාවෙම වගේ සබ්මිෂන් කර විදිහට මේකේ ඇත්තටම මේ වගේ ලීඩර් කෙනෙක් විදිහට තියෙන්න ඕනේ ඇත්තටම values මුලින්ම core values develop කරගන්න. ඒ දේත් එක්ක තමයි ඔයාලට ගොඩක් කලකට ඔයාලගේ personality එක දේවල් develop කරගන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් ඒ දේත් එක්ක